And so I decided to start a log, I guess, around middle January. And in middle January, I saw on Twitter some, a lot of those videos, those leaked videos of people in China kind of spontaneously dropping, right? They went into these spontaneous convulsions and then they just dropped. And then the next video would show kind of like these Andromeda strain type of suit people, gathering them up and then evacuating them. And then, some of them were just so ridiculous. One guy, he falls out, he comes out of a subway station or a metro, and then he starts trembling and then he falls down. And I suspected it wasn't true, but I didn't know, right? I just thought it was very odd because, I'm fairly familiar with China and I'm fairly familiar with some of its kind of what I like to call people operating system, but I'm also fairly familiar with what it calls discourse power, which is really what it conversations that allows to kind of leave, and is just one part of discourse power. So I thought it was odd that these were appearing on Twitter, and yet there was no attempt of Twitter to suppress them at all, or to bunk them or debunk them, or however these things go. Because I felt if there was some authenticity to it, China, and I'm fairly familiar again with the workings within, they've had a lot of epidemics before. This is nothing new for them. They've had a lot of they have industrial accidents every week. So China is not known for being very truthful. In fact, truth within the Chinese Communist Party is very difficult to find, and it's always very siloed and it's always very localized. So I thought it was very odd that we were seeing these videos that were allegedly leaked, and yet they were continuing to circulate for well over a month on Twitter. So I guess that brings us into when they started shutting down Wuhan, and they started showing the building up of these emergency hospitals, and it just reminded me a lot of the construction projects that were initiated for the Beijing Olympics, and also, in fact, for the Shanghai World's Fair. And that was used, both of those were used as cloaks for building internment camps and doing some other projects there. And again, I'm very familiar with the frequency of industrial accidents and the frequency of natural accidents that happen within China. So these are nothing unusual. It is, however, very unusual for them not to have a very tight grasp. Remember something, within China, you're not dealing with a two-party system. You're dealing with one party. So that one party cannot lose its authority or its prestige, because then the entire political apparatus there turns around. So they have to keep a very tight control. They need to preserve rituals. They need to preserve a lot of things. So when you see that much disruption, it was very unusual. So then, I started just taking notes then, right? And I didn't expect it to kind of metastasize to America. So keep in mind, this is also at a time in December when China, I expected there to be a lot of social turmoil in China in December. And I knew that on the mainland, there was already a lot of social upheaval, which you didn't hear about. Most people were hearing about or, seeing the discord that was occurring within Hong Kong itself. And that's because in Hong Kong, there is a lot of media, there's a lot of presence, and it's very dense, right? There's a lot of density within the media there. Within the mainland, there isn't, right? There's there's no camera crews stationed out there. It's a closed loop, right? America has no soft power out there. So within the mainland, the Belt and Road has been collapsing. The projects have been collapsing. And in December, they were going through a huge cash crunch with dollar-denominated debt. And because of the collapsing yuan, I'm going to bore you with this stuff, but because you asked, I'm going to tell you, because of the collapsing yuan, which they had to bring down, it was really devastating their big export industries. So for the first time in a decade, they were now facing a lot of competition. At the same time, they had to service some dollar-denominated debts, which means they actually needed physical dollars. And at the same time, you had people in China, because the factories were already operating at 40% capacity because the Belt and Road projects were failing. They were starving out there, and so there was a lot of political machinations also. So I was just I thought that the Chinese Communist Party was going to have a very difficult time managing itself after Hong Kong. I mean, Hong Kong just became so visual in December and January, and they lost so much of their authority once. In any event, once their police force stormed the university there, that was kind of the end of it. And then the next thing you know, there's the virus, and we really haven't heard too much of the protests since then.